Today is a special day. It's Yud Gimel Tammuz, Chag HaGeula, 96 years. The Eibush is a hope that every one of us should feel a Gula Protis, and we should have a Gula Kollel from Kollel Yisrael from this Golis. We started last week. We started talking about a little bit. Basically, someone asked a question. There's an Israeli company that came out with this machine called Amnon 18. You hook it, electrician will hook it up to your hot water tank, and they say that this is going to make it kosher to have hot water on Shabbos. Now, how does it work?
Electricity or solar?
How does it work? So basically, there's two parts to it. One part is that it makes that the water should, similar to a Shabbos, when you have a refrigerator in Shabbos, it goes on and off, not based on your putting in cold water. That's the first, and the second is that there is that the problem with the hot water tank is as soon as you take out hot water, cold water comes in its place, and we spoke about it last week. The hot water tank is probably a Kollel Rishon, and you're taking cold water and putting it into Kollel Rishon, you're cooking. So Amnon 18 makes that the water should go under Yatzei Ledus. Another discussion, what's Yatzei Ledus? You could tell you could press a few buttons what you consider Yatzei Ledus. It'll make sure that before Shabbos or on Shabbos, Friday night, the water will come down to that temperature. And if you open up the faucet of hot water and you're trying to get hot water before the water cools down, you'll get nothing. No water is going to come out. Nothing comes out of the boiler if the water is yeah. So if the water is whatever you put in the computer as Yatzei Ledus, if the water is that hot in the hot water tank, the water is not going out. You'll put on your faucet for hot water, you're going to get zero. You're not getting any water.
So when do you get?
So when the water comes down to under Yatzei Ledus, that's when you'll put on the faucet and hot water will come out. Now it's not going to be that hot because but very simple.
How does it work again? You repeat how it works. How does it work?
So first, two things. Number one, it makes that the elements, the fire doesn't turn on and off based on as soon as cold water comes in, it does. So say every 15 minutes, every half hour, similar to the way
cold water would come in when it's not Yatzei Ledus.
Second, that's number one. There's two parts to this thing. One is that the fire is turning on and off, not based on your taking out hot water. Number two, that cold water is not going to go into the tank unless the heat of the tank is less than a Yatzei Ledus. Two things, very simple.
But at the time that you put cold water in, at the point of not Yatzei Ledus, you know that somehow at a certain point heat is going to come in. It's going to kick in. In other words, I'm taking something not Yatzei Ledus with the knowledge that cold water is
going to come in and it's going to get cold.
Eventually, because the system is on and on, my water is going to get hot.
Yeah,
so
true. That's the other shaila. So today I want to split the shaila in a little bit. Who needs it? The shaila is who needs it. Basically, what you're asking is that this water would be considered chaman shehochim b'Shabbos. Even it's mutter. There's a concept of water that's chaman shehochim b'Shabbos. Well, who needs this Amnon 18? Who needs it? That's the question. Now, to us Ashkenazim, who are minig is not to be roichets even b'tzayin on Shabbos, and no balabosta on Yud Beis Tammuz after the meal at 12 o'clock midnight wants to wash her dishes. So who needs hot water? If you're going to tell your wife, I'm telling you, I'm giving you a birthday present. I'm getting a plumber, electrician, we're putting in Amnon 18. She's going to say, what can we do with it? Can I take a bath? No. So she's going to say, what do I do with it? 12 o'clock midnight, Friday night. This is kind of schnell and ton the dishes. We do that. Oh, okay. So Emes, I'm okay. So Emes, you're right. So I want to leave that for another. We'll leave that.
But I just wanted to, thinking of like they think, why can't they do something that the person checks how much water he uses in a normal day, or how much
water doesn't
and
come
then
in.
to have a tank that has more water than the other. Water doesn't come in. But at a certain point where the machine feels it's going to be, it's going to go too low, that it's going to burn the element. At that moment, stops and there is no more cold hot water. Why can't they do that? It sounds so much simple.
The way the plumbing works, it wouldn't be pressure. What? But you can't turn off the cold water.
Yeah, it's probably very hard to do it.
Why?
It's probably very hard to because it's made. There's this. It's a very simple machine. As soon as it's made with suction, as soon as you take out hot, cold has to come in. It's probably way too complicated
to
change that.
In the top of your building, it's going to come down with the gravity.
Yeah.
That's
There's people who have such machines.
Wow.
Built the whole plumbing system that there's pressure now, air. And they fill it for shabbos.
So that could be here. But that's not what Amnon 18 is doing. You asked a question why they're not. Right, didn't ask you how to build it. They have a very simple thing here.
It's connected to Amnon, it's a robot, it's connected to a machine.
Right.
So who's their customer?
Huh?
Who's their customer?
Who is their customer? So that's another discussion. I now want to discuss not what you can use it for, but is it kosher?
When you go to a hotel, then there is like these big coffee machines. So in order to have hot water before showers, there's a way to stop the water from coming in, and you just use as much water as there is in the tank.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Last week we discussed there's two parts, as I said, two parts of an issue of a hot water tank. One is that you're cooking water on Shabbos. I don't want to go back to that. We said it's Rishon. We story in the Gemara. The guy tired of his friend, put him in a pit, and then he opened up Bitke the Maya, Machloikes Rashi, and what's called Rishon. If he killed his friend by flooding the water over him, if it's called Grama, Rishon, Sheni, I don't want to go back to that. The bottom line is that's a problem. It's you're cooking water. Okay, let's talk about the second issue, which we didn't talk about last week, which is, are you turning on by the fact that you're taking out hot water, at some point, you might be turning on the fire to cook more water.
I have still that system in the houses.
Yeah. Most houses in America have that system.
No, but still, because of the sound, I mean, most houses nowadays actually that system. When you turn on the water so that the fire come out, that it's going to the tubes, and that's how we get hot water.
Very few. I don't know. There's a lot of houses still have the old-fashioned. Here in New York, yes. Here in New York, a lot of houses still using the old-fashioned tanks. Nothing changed.
What, the boiler, the big boiler?
Not boiler, the hot water tank. Go in your basement, see if you see a round tank.
Oh, the boiler. Boiler.
Yeah. It's not a boiler, it's a hot water tank.
How was I think? The hot water, then cold water. Yeah.
In Israel, that thing has been out of business for 50 years.
So that's
They have all they have tankless and they use a shemesh, totally different.
5 minutes you're in the shower, it starts coming cold.
I see the same thing. So people still have those things.
Yeah.
I'm observing the same.
Yeah. Okay, let's look in the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch. Neer dolok shemon kor veladelas neget psichas adelas mamish. Neer that's is in front of the door. If you open the door, you see the candle. You're not allowed to open the door. The ruach is going to blow out the candle. Alter Rebbe is basically quoting from the Shulchan Aruch, but adding a few words to his explanation. You're not allowed to open up a door on Shabbos if there's a candle in front of the door, because maybe when you open the door, the wind will blow out the candle. Wait, that's the shaila. They're all the meforshim ask. Wait a minute. We have the halacha that we pass like Reb Shimon. The dove she'enim eskaben is mutter. So this is a dove she'enim eskaben. So he said no.
The person didn't have in mind to blow it up. Just had in mind to open the door.
He just had in mind to open the door. So he said no. It's called psikirei shevelayamus. Let's read a little bit in the Kunta Sachim. A moedike Kunta Sachim. The first 5-6 lines, the Alter Rebbe says a chidush.
Even there.
No, it's the Reisa. The Shimon holds completely. It doesn't matter, but the Reisa, but the Rabban. Yeah. Dov Shimon Skaven. Goyred Odom. Classical case of Shimon is Goyred Odom Mita Kifsel V'Safsel. He's dragging, and he's going to make Gumas Bekarka, but it's not for sure. Maybe yeah, maybe no. It's Dov Shimon Skaven. Therefore, it's mutter. No, that's not what the Gemara says. You can ask a question. But that's not what the Gemara says. Huh? That's Reb Shimon's shit, right? Zok the Kunta Sachim, huh?
Like you open the fridge, and the fridge starts to work, but you're losing electricity, so that's in the contact to that. But then Psikarisha, they sit up. That's
I'm not getting into Psikarisha of Pseid. I'm just talking the regular din of Dov She'enim Eskaben. Kunta Sachim says, I'm the case of Mishnah, Perek Chafalo B'Shem Rivosh Atom Al Rambam. What was the question on the Rambam? Shekos of Gabi Kibud Abayis. The Rambam writes that it's also to sweep up the house. We're not talking about houses that have fancy parquet and carpets and ceramic tiles. That you're not allowed to be Mechabed Abayis. Shema Yash Vekumas. Maybe there's going to be a little bit of a hole, and you're going to straighten it out, and that's a maloch. Ain't it psikration? It's Shema. You're saying Shema Yashra Gumas. Maybe yeah, maybe not. How's that?
Like earth floor.
Yeah. So why is that different than pulling a chair? The pulling a chair and it's the opposite. It's the maloch of Chodesh Zereya. It's I'm sorry, they're both Charisha. It's like making a hole or covering a hole. It's both the same thing. So tell me, when pulling a chair, maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't. And you're telling me to sweep the floor, maybe it's going to happen, maybe it won't. Oh, it's also. Why? Ein Sham, in the case of Mishnah, what he says on the Rambam. And the din in our Shulchan Aruch is the Zabakasha. These words I added. Again, what do you mean Shem? If you're saying maybe the Ruach is going to come and blow out the candle, it's maybe. So that's what Shimon said. Because it's maybe going to happen, maybe it won't happen. It's mutter. It's a klotz kasha. The Alter Rebbe is going to give an answer. It's beautiful to see how Gedol Yisrael, how sometimes you love a teretz when you see different Gedol Yisrael that never met each other say exactly the Zaba teretz. So I'm show you that in Yeridei and Simon Pei Zayin, Rebbe Akiva Eiger gives exactly almost the same oasis as the Alter Rebbe. The Alter Rebbe didn't see Rebbe Akiva Eiger. Rebbe Akiva Eiger didn't see the Alter Rebbe. What's the answer the Alter Rebbe gives? Abu Be'em is Yishloimer. A simple teretz. Gabi kibud da sofaku shema yesh gumas bebayis. V'yef shelo yasher. B'hava lepsikeresha. V'mkein she'eni yudeya hava leisvakvek deraisa l'chumra. The gumas are not there yet. I'm scared that I'm going to make. V'loi dam l'shor dove she'eni miskaven l'sveika hava v'shori d'hosam sofaku shema yasa guma v'hocha sofaku Shema yesh kvar guma v'yefshe shelo yashve v'loi gora mishor sveike deiraise v'hu adin kan benitten dedan. Before we go further, he's saying there's a big difference from the yesterday or the tomorrow, 1 minute ago or the next minute. If it is that I'm dragging a chair Maybe I'm gonna make a pit. Maybe I won't. It's mutter. But when the suffix is, maybe there's already a pit in the ground. When I'm gonna sweep, I'm gonna cover it. Right now, the shaila is maybe there already is a pit. So now, when I'm gonna sweep, the sveika, like every sveika deraisa, we have a rule. The chumra. Rabbi Kivegas is exactly the same teretz. Rabbi Kivegas says in Yoda Deya, the Ramos says that if a goy has a pot that's cooking on a fire, you see a goy is making a barbecue right next to you. You're camping in Sequoia National Park, and the camping grounds right next to one next to each other. And you see a goy has a pot hanging on a fire, and he's having a hard time getting the fire going. And you know how to get the fire going, so you're going to help him out with the fire. It's awesome. Why? Because maybe breakfast he had cheese, and for dinner he's having meat, and you're cooking basa b'cholov. So you might be cooking basa b'cholov. So even though the guy is telling you right now there's only stew inside it, maybe there's a vegetable soup, but you don't know that maybe for the morning he had cheese and meat in there, and it's in and you're cooking it now. But that's what the Rama says. It's also to cook. It's also, why is it Rabbanon? Rama thinks it's a deraisa.
He's in the middle of the field. And maybe
The
doesn't
Rama
have
thinks that's a separate
water.
question. That's not a Baki Vegas question. That's a separate question. I hear your question. Separate question. I guess the Rama thinks that it's deraisa even on the Balua. I don't know. It's a good question.
It's more than
The Baki Vegas question is a different question. It's not this question. The Baki Vegas is a different question. I hear question. The Baki Vegas is a different question. He says, it's l'choira. So he says, so we see that Rama holds like the Rambam. We'll soon say because the Ramban holds differently. That whenever there's a suffix psikeresha, it's also. He says, I don't understand. Why is it different than Dava Sheina Miskav? He says, he is not being Miskaven. He doesn't know. So he says, there's a big difference. Dava Sheina Miskaven is, I am dragging a chair. Maybe I'm going to make a hole in the ground. I'm going to make 2 lines. Maybe not. Maybe yeah, maybe not. But in this part, it's not maybe in 5 minutes the guy or in 2 minutes the guy is going to put in a piece of cheese and a piece of meat. Maybe 5 minutes earlier the guy put in a piece of cheese and a piece of meat. And right now the piece of cheese and piece of meat is in the pot. So that's like every suffix deraisa. That's suffix deraisa l'chumra.
If it's a hot water, you can make coffee. Hot water, this please. What kind of coffee?
If there's a chash that it was hot, we assume when we go to a hotel and we see a hot pot.
The campers have usually just a little thing that's the size of a cup.
I understand. So you assume that they didn't cook anything besides coffee in there. But if you have a shad that they cooked other things in it, taco would be a problem. It would be a worse problem. You're not allowed to eat it. When you're going to cook it, you can eat it. That's a separate issue.
Like in the plane, that they're able to put certain things in their hot water.
If it's something we pass in Allah, something enough.
That's a separate shaila. He's asking a different thing. He's asking. I hear what you're saying, but that's a separate shaila. But that's not the shaila that Rabbi Kiveger is dealing with. His shaila is it's a dava sheina miskaven. It's like dragging a tree.
Yeah.
Say the case in the Yoda there was that maybe in the bottom of the pot there's a little piece of cheese and a little piece of meat, not the balua. Let's change the case.
Yeah.
So you say, but you don't know for sure if there's cheese and meat. It's a suffix. So what's the difference if you're going to mita kifsa v'safso? If it's a dava sheina miskaven, shema you're going to make holes. Shema you won't make holes. Over here, shema there's a piece of cheese and meat. Shema there isn't. So his answer is that when you're dragging a chair, shema now through the dragging you're going to make a hole in the ground. The Rabbi Vegas says, Mashenkin in the pot, maybe it's already there. So who gives you the right? It's a suffix deraisa that you're cooking now. That's what the Rabbi Vegas says. When we say dava sheina miskaven, is talking about the next minute. But if you're talking about 3 minutes ago, that there already is basa b'cholav in the pot, or like in this case, that there already is a guma in the ground, and you're going to sweep and you're going to cover it up, that's not called Adov Shein Miskaven Shema. This is a suffix that I say. You have to be noig l'chumra.
What's this sort of happening when I sleep with them? This is happening when I pull it. This is happening now, not pull it. Oh, it's no different.
I hear-
He's saying there's a
That's what he's saying is the difference. Yeah, because there's already a hole in the ground, and when you're sweeping, because there's a chash, there's a hole in the ground, and so as soon as you sweep, shanking, so alatzad that there is a hole, you're going to cover it, but there already is a hole. Mashenkin, it doesn't cover it because because a yid has to know what to do and what not to do. So if the Torah tells him, if you have that there's already something in front of you, there's already a mitchell. If there's already a mitchell, and you know that this is an issue, the Raisa, walk away. Shanking here, I don't have anything in front of me. And maybe I'm going to make it. Okay, so Shema, yes, Shema, not. It's not a psikresha, therefore we're making. It's very.
You have to think about it. It's a soft ground or not.
Yeah, for sure. All that goes in. Yeah, because it all goes into right. Because could be it's a psikresha. Yeah, all has to go into account. Huadin kan benidin nedan. Asofak kushem bereb zeh sheyochel liftoyach yinash ro b'chazokim. V'yefshe shelo yitiv techabem sheyiposach. Nimtza oisa isu deraisa mashpesech. Excuse me. Just a second. Nadekin aruach mechabe vad. Kivin shekvar yesh ruach v'lo yoda ve'oshem. Shesovek shemaskel shein shem ruach. Okay. Skip a little piece. But that. V'af lamim asher kosavataz b'shimen. Shin tezayin sivkot and gimel. The suffix psikresha mushori v'chein masher behedid berambam al makomes v'ran leida kida gabit tziruf. This is a very important Ramban. The Ramban says, talking about the Mishnah says, Avechim shepinu, that there's a hot pot. They took out the hot water. You're allowed to put in cold water. It's a daf mem. The whole daf Gemara. I'm putting a little bit of water. You cook a lot of water. It's not going to cook. The Gemara asks, wait a minute. The din is you're not allowed to be mitzaref hakeli. What's mitzaref hakeli? When the keli is built and it's hot, so the umman puts it into cold water, and the cold water hardens the keli. So here also maybe the heat of the keli came to such a level. Somebody's trying to answer that if there's hot water in a keli, the heat can never get so hot that now you'll be. It doesn't sound that way in the Gemara. Because the Gemara says it doesn't sound that way. The Gemara says, mitzaref, and for the Gemara, you're not miskaven. So the Ramban says, but maybe it's psikresha. She says, no, because it's a suffix. We don't know if it got to that heat. We don't know. We're not sure if it got to that heat. So therefore, it's considered. It's a considered suffix psikresha, and therefore it's mutter. And from this, the Taz learns a din. The Taz says that if a person has a keli and he says suffix, maybe there's a few mosquitoes in there. He wants to cover it. He doesn't want to start looking. Mosquitoes, not. It's also to cover it because you're not allowed to be tzeda. But he doesn't want to. There's a lot of mosquitoes in the room, but he's scared. As soon as I put a cover, there's 3 mosquitoes. They're going to get stuck in there. But I don't know for sure there's mosquitoes. The shaila is, do I have to start looking and chasing the 3 mosquitoes out? Or I could just cover it. 3 mosquitoes are there. Let the 3 mosquitoes stay there. So he says, the halach is like the Ramban, suffix psikresha. We don't know for sure. If we know for sure that there's mosquitoes here and I cover it, psikresha. If you're going to cover it, you're going to be making tzeda. But here, I don't know if there's mosquitoes here. I don't want to go. I don't want to bother looking. This place is infested with mosquitoes. I have to start looking. Mosquitoes will chase them out. I'm not interested. No problem, says the Taz. But the mosquitoes might already be here. It's a shando. They're not coming in. It's a shando. Alatzad that they're there, it's a psikresha. Mosquitoes are, it's not, the room is full of mosquitoes. They may be there. That's what he says.
Like Makas Tzadea.
Exactly, they're all around. וכן מה שבעד בן אבא מלחמת ורן ובבית יוסף על הטה בשעת הסופק בלבד כשאין שם חשש ועדי כלל. Here the Alter Rebbe is going to split it here. If you thought he just split it here, he's going to split it here again. Haina lahata b'shas asofik b'lavad kshem shum shash v'adai klal. Avalim yesh lochu shema yeh v'adai. V'af al pikein yasa mashi yasa. Harei ze doim l'shor choshes g'zeda shechosh chom enu machlal sofik p'sikreish k'vur b'edim d'toises. The Sanhedrin of Peheh Medal of Sev der Maskum Reb Shimon Ayin Shom because Psychodal Dama Yishlem the Kagavna Emir Pasur Beref Tefa Chaderch Marshal Cheshinan Shem Abiyat Shapashat Yodel Odelis Lefter Beregis Betchilas Apsicha Yinash Baruch Bachoizik Nimtza Shapsicha Beroch Tefa Hi Acher Shakvar Nosha Betchilas Apsicha Ruch Ozog Kach Shiyefsha Shalo Yichbek Shif Tefa Oipach is Nimtza is Acher Shuvad Psikreisha. I think what Alter is saying like this. Say the Alter Rebbe is saying like this. He opens up the door one crack. One crack. A mushroom. All of a sudden, there's a wind. Most people, once you're already in motion, it's very hard to stop. You open the door one crack, and all of a sudden, there's a wind. It's shabbos. I close it. I'll hold it exact. That's your brain doesn't work so fast.
Smell the winter, you'll close it very fast.
Yeah, but you're trying to get in. That's the problem. And now you're because Shabbos there's a cat. Your head doesn't work so fast. That's he's saying a whole story of a mashal of a tefach. He wants to say even as big as a tefach. Wants to say from a mashu to a tefach. How long do you open a door? How long does it take from a mashu to a tefach? Millisecond. Exactly. Now, what happened was, in that mashu, when you opened, if a wind started, Taki, you're not miskaven to blow out the candle by further opening the door, but it's psikrei shevalayomos. It's no shy. It's no shy if you keep on opening the door, the wind is going to get in and it's going to blow out the candle. So the Alter Rebbe wants to mechadash alachol Rishonim. This thing would be awesome. Why? Because he went here. By opening the door, this is the it's not a suffix psikration. It's a suffix vada psikration. Only here there's a possibility that once there's a whole I think Alder was going back to the concept of Sveika der Eisel. If there is already something in front of me that I have to worry about. So most of the times, if there's no wind, I open the door, it's good. If there is a wind, I won't open the door. But it's shayich that there'll be one time that I'm going to start opening the door, and when I'm going to open a mashu, all of a sudden there'll be a wind. And it'll be, my brain is not going to work quick enough, and I'm going to keep it. And that smart that it went from a mashu opening to a tefach opening, the wind got in, and that's psikrei shevaloyamos. So therefore, that Rambam would also agree to the Halacha in Shulchan Aruch. The Alter Rebbe says that everyone will agree, even that this machloikis, suffix psikeresha, will only be in other cases. And have a suffix if there's flies or mosquitoes in the jar, and I want to close it. You don't know suffix when it's going to come. It's not there yet. Showing you what it's splitting it. And before the Alter Rebbe split the here in half, and now in 4 quarters.
The whole idea that I wanted to cover the path is because I think that maybe they didn't come yet in and I'm going to be able to do something back for it. Correct? So it is...
You're talking about the boiler.
Yeah, they're talking about the part that has the mosquitoes inside. Why do I want to do it? Because since I feel that this may happen, but didn't happen yet, that's why my
No, I have sugar in there and I want to cover it. I have sugar. I don't want to leave it open. I want the sugar to be closed.
Why? Because you don't want the mosquitoes to go in. That itself
not because of mosquitoes, nothing to do. I want to put it back in the shelf. So get finished on the mosquitoes and the sugar or not.
Why is it also to open the door?
Huh?
I understand why it would be also to open the door. It's a pair shape. There's something that the wind's going to blow it out. There's going to be a wind before.
But in that time that there's going to be a wind, if there's ever going to be a wind, when you open the door, you didn't do a davashin maskaven, you did a psikidation. In that time, when the wind is going to blow, what you did was not a davashin maskaven.
It's like me dragging the chair. I'm dragging the chair. The something that's going to make a hole. So no, it's something. But winds sometimes come. It's not the pshat. It's just sometimes it'll make a hole when I drag.
No. Every time it's shy that my whole life when I drag a takip, it's very soft ground.
Right.
You're not allowed. It's only when it's soft. Maybe yeah, maybe no. It's always 50-50.
And the wind's also good.
No, but in the one time when it's going to blow, I'm going to continue doing the maisa. That's what he's saying. It's here, if I'm dragging a chair and I see that it's starting to, I'm going to stop right away. Here, it's like a thing which, the movement, the person, it's going to be too late, and I'm not going to stop. And I'm going to do a malacha that I...
Basically, that the Rebbe says like this. If I would be able to open it very slow and to feel if there is a wind or not, that would not be a problem. A wind that wouldn't do anything to the thing. The problem is that I'm not going to do it slow because at the moment I'm going to realize that it's really coming in. At that moment I know. And I still open.
Right.
It's the same thing as the goodness.
Right.
That makes sense. I guess some are related, usually related.
You know, before you ask, I just want to read quickly one more piece. Skip the little piece. One more piece. Shulchan Aruch Rabbeinu. Im tzod she'em b'min nitzet. Kigon sarim zvuvim v'yatushim kiyoytz b'hem. She'en derech ha'olam lotzat min ha'elam. B'nei she'em b'hem tzodeh. People like to catch fish, birds, lions. People don't like to catch sport to eat. For both. Sometimes for sport, sometimes to eat. But there's no sport in catching flies and mosquitoes. What do you need it for? You're only hunting it down because you don't want it to bite you, but you don't really want the fly. Because you want to pot it. But also, the feel a lot of Shalom Lizgateva Loistem Kali Shish Boz Vuvim Shalem Litsuda Mizgida Stima Mizgida Zu. Bafshin Miskavan Klalat Seda. But you have it. Bafshin Miskavan Klalat Seda. Mahomakum Sikresha Valayamasu. Alit and Sak and Ashum Dover Ben Akisa Lakli Binya Shuch Lots Masham Loya Sikresha. Yesh Mekilim Mamakam Shim Yapasach Akli Little Masham Yivrchu Misham. That there is those that are makel that because eventually you're going to open up the keli and they're going to run away. Imtzashen can say the klal bakis is there. V'yishlismach devrein linyan shein tzarich ladaktik l'ayim shema ye'im yesham zvuvim v'afim roye bevadish zvuvim in the room v'afriach mashenira l'eino v'dayek v'en tzarich l'chapes shema nishru oy zvuvim in the kli kimish adov esafek miyeshna sham en kam sikreish. So we see that the Alter Rebbe is begrudgingly paskening like the Rambam with 7 more conditions. Whenever we're dealing with a Isur, the Raisa, he wouldn't come close to the Kula the Rambam. Only when it's Isur the Rambanim. Even then, with a tziruf of something else, say if catching flies and mosquitoes is only Isur the Rambanim. And even then, there's a svara to say that you closed it, but eventually someone's going to open it, so they're going to fly away. So let's not say that. So then he said, okay, you can rely. You're not again. What are we talking about? The Ramban says you don't have to look here if there's flies in here. Even though there's flies in the room, go like this. You have to look. You don't know. It says chasofik. Maybe they're there. Maybe. So it's a dava she'enim eskaven. But if they're there, it's a psikeresha. He says, no. That's sofik psikeresha is not called psikeresha. It has to be vade psikeresha. Like a chicken. If I cut off a head because I want to find a toy for my son, and my son likes to play with a chicken head, and I cut off I didn't want to kill the chicken. All I wanted to do is my son should have a toy. I never meant to kill the chicken.
Yes, I've heard. But you put on the head of the chicken's going to be dead.
Right. So that's pshat psikeresha v'lo yamas. I can't say I didn't know. I didn't. I just looking for a toy for my son, and the chicken died. That's bad news. But I'm sorry. Can't say that.
Yeah, but that person possibly make an art.
Exactly. So that's what we're saying. Psikeresha, you can't say that. But then Ramban says, I don't know if there's flies here or not. I don't know. So it's not. If there was, then. But other Rishonim hold, no. Like the Ramah Paskins, if there is a shad, like we see over there by Basa B'chol, that Ramah holds that if you think that there might be a fly in here, you can't cover it. Because what do you mean? Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. But there is. But it's already not. Maybe is or isn't. I'm going to start dragging. Maybe I'm going to make a bit. Maybe I won't. But if the shaila is on what was, maybe there's already a few mosquitoes in here. Al atzad that there is, who gives you the right to cover it? You're most mechuyev to look, and so Ramo is machmir. The Alter Rebbe is like saying, oh, it's because it's the rabbanon. There's what we make. Like bottom line is, Dov Hashem miskaven. Reb Shimon says is mutter, and we pass Dov Hashem miskaven is mutter. The Gemara says sikeresha v'lo yamus. You can't take the head of a chicken, cut it off, and say I never meant the chickens to die. What we have the machloikas here is between the Rishonim. Sofik sikeresha means that it's not something that will maybe happen, but it's something that's already there. Maybe there's already a hole in the ground. Maybe there's already mosquitoes here, and so the Rambam is machmir. So you have to make sure they're not here. And the Ramban is mekel. The Alter Rebbe holds, but Lagabe opening a door, even the Ramban will be. So now let's go to the boiler. Let's go straight to the boiler room. So if the Lachoida, it would be very so. What's it? If according to the Ramban, maybe there's a tzad to be mekel. According to the Ramban, there's not for sure when you open up your faucet and hot water comes out. It's not like there is the thermostat. The second you open it up, the thermostat let's turn on the fire. Sometimes it takes a while. Sometimes you'll already close by the time there's so much hot water, you're going to take a little bit of water, you're going to close it, and the thermostat never asked for the fire to turn on. You turned it on, you turned it off, the thermostat never asked for the fire to get turned on. But sometimes it is. So this is really a suffix p'sikration. This is really it's kamata classical suffix p'ridei. You have to judge, and maybe the Alter Rebbe's chidush in the Rambam would apply, and everyone would say it's also, I don't know, but this is all in the discussion of a suffix p'sikration. And on Shabbos, cooking is also the Raisa, so you have to be machmir. So that's the issue with the hot water tanking. As I mentioned last week, that Reb Shlomo Zalman Auerbach said that on Yom Tov, the whole thing of creating fire is not so strict like on Shabbos, and therefore Shir Shmira Shabbos Golchotza brings from Shlomo Zalman that Yom Tov is mekel. Most people talk are knowing to be mekel. Why? Because what's the maybe I'm turning on a fire. How terrible is it to turn on a fire? Some of the tanks that even Ada Yom Hazeh, some tanks still have a little pilot. It's mamish, there's no problem. Mamish, so what's the problem? Right? It's existing fire, it's fire from fire, it's mamish, no problem. If it's not, if there's elements, it's not a fire. So shaila is if it's mamish, it's creating a new fire, Yom Tov is deraisa, maybe it's not deraisa. So
That rum is mutter.
now
That rum is mutter.
again, problem is this is more than grumble. It's psikiration, or it's a suffix psikiration.
The rum it's very later, not now. We're saying that it's not going to be about immediately. It's
But there is sometimes the water in the tank is in the matzah where it's the second that sometimes depending on how hot the water is in the tank, right? Sometimes the water in the tank is at such a temperature that the second you're turning on the hot water,
right,
it's a koyach rishon, and if you consider it koyach rishon, and you right away it's as if you turned on right away.
I ask you a question?
it's me glaring by putting this faucet on. It's glaring that the cold water comes in and just glaring.
But that's not called grama. If you consider it a koyach rishon, that's not called a grama. That's called you doing it. That's why we discussed last week what's called koyach rishon, koyach sheni, koyach shlishi. But there is a svara to say that this is not called koyach sheni or shlishi. It's called koyach rishon. Koyach rishon means I did it. In the case of I tied up someone, and I would be considered as if he was a tzayah. So that's the bottom line. And so Shabbos, there's a problem. So in Amnon 18, if the Amnon 18 is like working, then it makes sure that the element turns on and off, not based on my maisa, and the hot water only, the cold water will only come in when it's less than that. So let's be very. There are a lot of Rabbanim that gave their stamp of approval, and they know the technology. So if someone's asking if it's permissible to install, so they seem to have a lot of good approvals, and it's fine. Now, if you want to use that water to bathe, the thing we'll talk about it another time. Someone asked me unbelievable shaila this week. It's like I get my head around it. He works as in a car dealership, And the deal is that so Lamazon, every lease he produces, Lamazon gives a commission of $2,000. So he splits the $2,000 50-50 with the balabas, because the balabas is paying rent for the building. He's doing advertising, on the auto lease. So and he's also paying for the system that allows him to generate leases. Me and you can't go to Toyota and get a lease directly from Toyota. We can't. It's just Toyota doesn't want to deal. Right. There's a licensing. Toyota doesn't want to deal with me. There's a reason for it. They don't want to deal with it. They don't have enough workers. So, but there are people that pay for a license and a system, and they set it up. So, Mela the Balabas makes a deal with him. You bring your customer. You do your own advertising too, which he does, on the side. But people know my brand, so there's a little thing, and whatever customers you bring in, you do a lease. The commission goes 50-50. Okay. And this young man, let's call him Reuven. Let's say, you know what? Reuven the balabas, Shimon is the worker. Shimon realized that there's a little bit more money to be made. Why was there a little more money to be made? Shimon realized that there's an issue here. After COVID, the car companies were not producing quick enough for many reasons. The factories were shut for a while, and some artificial, who knows? It's hard to know if there's, things are right. If things are artificial or organic, if it's emes or not emes, whatever. Bottom line is, it is what it is. So, okay, someone tells me he has a car. So he has a Japanese car, 100,000 miles warranty. Machai, Gewaldig. It was a good price. Everything's good. Now, the car had a problem. Fix it, and they said, no problem. Fix a few. We're responsible. The part is on a boat. 3 months, he still didn't get this car fixed.
You have to pay. You have to pay the lease.
He needs a car. That's what he needs. So, okay. So the used car market became very hot. So people now interested in keeping their cars are buying used cars. A lot of companies now that were generating the leases, the big companies, they also want to have a piece of the pie. So they usually they you give back your car. Okay, they come, they take a scratch, they charge you $500 for the scratch, $300 for the scratch. Before you know it, you get knocked over your head with $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 of now it's okay. So come to us, we're going to give you $3,000, $4,000 incentive.
What are we to unload the car with it?
Yeah, bring me back the car. Yeah.
That's because they sell it for more than the $3,000.
That's it. They're saying, give us the car, we'll give you $3,600. There's still people. One more piece to the puzzle. When you return a car, you don't have to return it to the Reuven Shimon who generated the lease. If it's a Toyota, you go to any Toyota dealer, you drop it off. Hello, here's the car. If you want to be there when they inspect it, the height, so you see what if you don't, if it's plain like a whistle, you walk in, you drop your keys, here's the car, have a nice day, bye-bye, it's over. Most people but don't think that way. Most people, I got it from Reuven Shimon. I have to bring it back to Reuven Shimon. So people
Getting the next car also
because they're getting also the next car from Reuven Shimon. Right. So one-stop shop, I'm coming back there. To a fault. People, they get in the mail that they're going to get when they return $5,000. That's junk mail. They don't look at it. That's junk mail. That's the way people's heads work. This is junk mail. I'm coming back. I call Shimon. Could you please take care of returning my lease? No problem. So Shimon returns the lease and he pockets the $5,000. No, that's not what he's doing. He could if he wants, but that's not his business. It's easy money. He wants to return the car so he can get the next. He's a garnish friend. So he returns the car for them. He makes sure he goes to the house. He makes sure to straighten out all the papers. Everything is good, and he gets now the incentive. It's a nice place. At a time was 5,000, 3,000.
No, that's not. It's not. You should for different reasons. But
Why?
the customer thinks he's going through a leasing
Customer
place.
doesn't
No,
This guy's
customer
going-
doesn't
he's
care.
going
No, I don't
That's
think.
when he goes back to cars.
He knows I'm going through them as opposed to going to the dealership because I'm going there.
I don't see it being not Yosher. A lot of people have it's the customer's fault for having that attitude. Hey, it's Milishkin Daigas. I saw him. You take the incentive. It's a big headache.
Plus,
You take care of it.
With my employee, whatever he's doing, anything car related,
Here,
going
the-
through me.
Now hear the question. Ruben finds out that Shimon is pocketing all that profit. It's not fair. You have to split it with me 50-50. Shimon says, what happens if I would want to sell bagels on the side? Am I your slave? If I want to sell to every customer that comes, if I want
Yeah,
to
but
sell
now
a dozen bagels,
But the car is not going to be having the bagels.
He's competing with his business.
yeah, that's not the part of the business. We're selling bagels.
Not the rate.
This is not a chelik of the business. We're selling bagels. If I'm not allowed to sell bagels, if once someone want to go on the side bagel hole for 2 hours a day and sell bagels, I don't want to sell
It's
bagels.
not competition.
That's what Shimon says. I'm selling bagels. For 2 hours, I'm selling bagels. And Reuven says, no, you're not selling bagels. You're in the car business. He says, well, car business. Everything that has 4 wheels is the car business. It's a different thing. You and me have a shutfis and generating a lead.
Shimon has this customer because of Reuben.
So here is, I don't even ask me yet on it. The person asked me the shayla, it's still sitting on my head. It's still sitting in my head. The Shimon wants me to tell him that it's mutter. I'm not sure it's really mutter.
So they cause bad
So
luck.
Shimon, that's not he's asking me a shayla. That is that.
Work it out.
And to work it out, exactly. Just
Can I tell you
because
something?
if every time you have a dispute with your employer or person that you right away say, oh, because so therefore I'll capitulate. That also is if Shimon has a time and Shimon feels he's right, he has the right to work it out with his balabas. So he's asking me a shayla. He's He's asking me a shayla. So here the question is: returning cars, is that like selling bagels 2 hours a day, or that's a chelik of the business? The Reuven didn't talk to me. Only Shimon spoke to me. Reuven could easily say, "Hey, I spent money on why are people coming to Shimon? They're not coming to him to buy bagels, talking. They're not coming to him. Why are they not asking him if it's lunchtime? Why are they not asking him for a dozen bagels? Because they come. There's a level of trust because you're the mumch of cars, and who gave you this koyach to have a mumcheshaft in cars? Because you're working out of my office and you're using my computer system and my license in order to generate leases. So it's not like a dozen bagels. I want to say I really think that Reuven has a strong taina, and I want to bring you a Rambam. I know it's a little bit left. I think the owner has a
The
strong.
fact that Honda itself allows for this thing
They don't allow.
that come to me directly or not, they don't make sure that they have to go back to Honda. And somehow they leave it to the dealer and to the person under him that somehow they should do something.
I wouldn't say that's a taina, but I wanted to show you a taina that I have for Reuven's side that I think is a very strong thing. The Rambam writes in Hilchos Nachot. I think it's left field, but you'll see when I read it what I'm saying. Echem min ha'achim. Some of you might not have in the bottom of the page because last night when I printed out a few pages, I didn't have yet this thought in my mind. This morning I had it, so I added it. So some papers have it, some don't. But anyway, the Rambam writes in Hilchos Nachot, Echem min ha'achim sheminu ha'melech gabay b'soifer shemachnu semoitzi b'momon ha'melech v'chin kol kayotze b'zavazoides ha'malachim. Father was Lamazagin. He was the tax collector for the Pasha in Tunis. He was an unbelievable tax collector. Pasha loved him because this guy, a lot of, and throughout 2,000 years in Golis, it doesn't matter in the east or in the west, as far as the Ashkenazi countries.
Collect a certain amount, and whenever he got over that, he got.
You know what? We had here a guy that was a very high position. He was in Russia, in Petersburg. He was where the Winter Palace is today. His office was where the Alter Rebbe was in prison, which was turned at that time office. He was one of the top corporations in the Soviet Russia. He told me, Mr. Gak. Most of you don't remember. Do you remember Mr. Gak? All of us Shalom. He's a special person. That's why it's Yud Beis and Gimel Tammuz. He had a beard. Quiet man, very quiet man. He had a very strong voice.
He was from in Russia. Nice.
So he wasn't. You have to hear. He was head of one of the top corporations in Russia. He said when after Perestroika and the whole place fell apart, his one of his buddies told him, "We're going to do business together." And he said, "No, I'm a Jew and I want to become religious." He took whatever money he said whatever cash was around, collecting the cashiness, and he came to America. He was whenever it was aliyah, he was generous. I don't know what he had or didn't have. He might have not had that much. What was it? The rubles. But whatever he could have, he put in his pockets. He came to America right away. It lost the board. He wanted from a yid. He said, every Shabbos was then he tells me once with a big smile, he said, "You know what happened with that?" He says, a couple of weeks ago, he was doing business in Italy, and he was in a hotel in Zionist, and they came and they blew his brains out. I can believe him for them going. His partner who told him, "Come with me, and we're going to." A guy, he became one of the rich Russian oligarchs, and he says, and he told me in the mikveh Shabbos morning. And me and you are now in the mikveh. L'chaim. Taka, over here, the mikveh. Talk to me in the mikveh. Let's go to the big bed. Exactly. Taka, this mikveh. And no daikas. He was a very happy person. It's no daikas. There was nothing said that every corporation in Russia came out. The nachalnik, who was the boss, was always a goy because they were taka anti-Semites. But every time, the assistant was always a yid. Someone has to run the business, that has seichel. Otherwise, the business will go on the ground. So he says, I could never become the nachalnik. It was impossible. He wasn't religious, but
oligarchs there have many churches.
Not today. We're talking 30 years ago. It's not shaykh. It was a glass ceiling. It's not shaykh that he would become the nachalnik. But to become the assistant nachalnik, Dafka, they wanted a yid. They knew this guy labels, given a yid letzeichel, and he can run a corporation. So there was a not such an unusual thing that the melech was mamana, a yid should be his gabbai. A gabbai. And now he passed away, so the melech said, one of his sons. So we can't have all five, like one son. So here is the Rambam says, says if the Pasha says, or Mr. Putin says, "Oh, my good friend, the Yid that was running this government agency or this big corporation passed away. A goyish drunkard, never going to figure out how to run the business. So, well, let's pick one of his sons." So the other four brothers say to him, "We have to, whatever you get, you have to split with us because you got it b'schus our father. If Take minu b'schus atzma, he could prove that." Even if I feel like Chacham b'Yosef, still he has to split with them. But if he could say, "No, it was because of me, it's nothing to do with you." 10 years went by, and then he applied for the job and he got the job. So you say I'm bringing halacha from left field. What am I bringing this halacha for? The reason I'm bringing this halacha is, you see the idea here that the brothers say when the Pasha made you the next tax collector in Tunisia, it was because our father proved himself to be so now it's a chelik from the Yerusha. We have to split it. Reuven says they're not coming to you because they're hungry Sunday afternoon and buying from you a dozen bagels. They're going to Bagel Hall to get the bagels. They're coming to you to return the car. So Amistad, it's a different business, and you don't need a computer system. You don't need an office. You can do it from pajamas in your basement. It's a funny business. No, but why? But why are they coming to you? They're coming to you because you generated Machatchila, the lease. And how did you generate the lease? You couldn't generate without the license that I have. So I think Reuven has a very strong time. Now, Shimon could go back and say to him, did any of my customers come back to you? And you I'm sure if Shimon chapped that this is a good business, every Yid and his brother-in-law is doing the same thing. It's not shayach that only Shimon chapped this business. So Shimon could go back to Reuven and say, listen, any of my customers came back to you and you returned the car and pocketed the $3,600, that's it. I want half of that too. And maybe we'll just call it a wash, and from now on we'll start splitting 50-50. How do you want to go? Let's sit down and let's put it on the table. It has to be both ways. That's for sure a good time for Shimon. But for Shimon to say I'm selling bagels, it's like putting his head in the sand. And I don't think he's selling bagels.
Wait, don't they have to go back to the customer?
No. Just look at the money. How much money came in from him, from me to IJ.
Let's say something else. Doesn't the customer really have to get that money?
And that's what someone asked before.
Yeah.
Really, the customer is supposed to get the money.
Yeah.
And if the customer says, I want the money, they're going to give him the money. But if the customer says, I don't want to deal with it, you give it back. That's what people are like that way. People don't want to bother. You're not that way, but there are people that are that way. I know, but
If they fly out the car, it's a headache. Sure, it's a headache.
it's a headache for them. I don't want to deal with it. You deal with it.
You only get that money if you go through.
It's not that hard.
Paperwork.
Yeah, it's a
Or you have to do the papers.
Yeah, you read the paper from here to there.
My brother's whole business is based on. But he's his own guy. It's like competing. But he tells the customer very straightforward. What he's flying out the car and he's giving them a credit towards an estimate. And he wants to pay with it because he's paying up front the money. And it's an open.
That's why they get the next lease.
Yeah, they fly out the car and then they sell it on the used car market so they make good payment, and he gives some to the customer. Tells the customer, we'll split it, whatever, and he works it out with them.
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
That's already a little more malachi. He's doing a little more than this guy.
But he gets off on the next lease. When he gets the next lease, he gives him a credit. So that incentive bonus.
The order of the lease is that you start paying a lease is part of the beginning of buying the car. At the end of the lease, you're allowed to buy the car yourself.
It's a rental.
No, it's not a rental. You're allowed to buy the car.
What's a nafkamina to our discussion?
What's a nafkamina is that the person that is leasing the car really he owns it, so he could do whatever he wants.
Reuven and Shimon, they're a shatchen. Reuven and Shimon had the din of a shatchen. They don't own a bank. The bank doesn't know them, and they don't know the bank. The car company doesn't know them, and they don't know the car company. They have their mamish din tivuch v'shidduch. Every from leasing company you see, they're nothing. They're a man with a desk. They're nothing but a shatch, and they're getting demei shatchonos. As soon as you walk out of their office, it's done. It's like a shatchan that made a shidduch.
I understand, but the owner of the car, the one that has everything in his hands, to go back to Honda and say, I want to buy it, because from the $25,000 that it cost, I already spent $25,000, so give it to me for 15. Yeah? So it's the owner of the car. They're the guy that had the lease. So if this guy that has everything in his hands decides to give it to the guy that gave him the lease, give it to him, because he has everything in his hands.
Okay, so you're saying in the tzad of Shimon.
Shimon is the guy that...
Shimon is not the owner. This is the second guy. You're saying in the tzad of
I work on Reuben's hiring, but he trusts him. He's doing business for his gain. And now he's take the customer somewhere else. I mean, it's like you're competing with the guy that's employing.
Right. Okay, so
I'm not the rope, but
we'll say it for the time. Okay, one more shaila because it's 3 shailas. We went mamish very long today. Someone asked me about doing a medical procedure and then 3 weeks of the 9 days. The emesis, there's nothing mamish in Shulchan Aruch about this. There is nothing mefurish Shulchan Aruch in Shulchan Aruch. It's only mishenichnas avamat and besimcha. However, there is in Svarim that they bring that about the 3 weeks.
We're in procedure voluntary.
Voluntary.
But you should push off legal disputes.
So, Demis is like this. There's nothing with foolish in Shulchan Aruch, even in the 9 days. The person, but Bachlal, there is a union of Kollel it's a good Beinam Etzonim that Akech says that he needs to be careful in the 3 weeks. But there are those that are nizar not to even go on vacation the 3 weeks. And sometimes it's difficult because the 3 weeks is the 9 days. It's also to do the 9 days for Bnei Ashkenaz Shavuot for the Bnei Sfarad. It's also the 3 weeks is so. The only thing that I could say is that I found that there's a letter from the Rebbe, and the Rebbe says it's a Shari Lochin Minig the ring. It says, well, whenever you have a shaila, find 2 doctors. It was very important for the Rebbe. Never take one opinion. Always get a second opinion on medical issues. Always. What's the Rebbe saying over here? I think it's mashma for me that the Rebbe is saying 3 weeks is not a problem for medical procedure. And the 9 days, try not to do it in the 9 days, but if Taka, the doctor is pushing you to do it, try not to do it in the Shavuot Shechol Boi Tisha B'Av. The Shavuot Shechol Boi Tisha B'Av is really what the Gemara talks about. Elamai, the Bnei Ashkenaz are machmer for all 9 days. The doctor is pushing you, at least try to do it before Shabbos Chazoin. Vashem Yisborach Haroifa Kol Basar Mafle Lasses Ishlach Devode B'Yerapoi Al Yedei Roifa Ploinu V'Tipol Ploinu. The Eibishter will send as refuah for this doctor, through this tipol V'Vaser Toiv V'Toiv Hanida V'Anik. Okay, the Eibishter will help them that every one of us should V'Vaser Toiv and we're starting this the 3 weeks. One of the things that the Rebbe said that the 3 weeks are very masugul to learn in the yonim of building the Beis Hamikdash, and now Bachlal on the Wednesday night shir we're learning about building a Beis HaKnesses and a Beis HaMedrash, and for sure the Bli Neder in the 3 weeks sign the Sunday night shir and sign the Wednesday night shir. Bli Neder will put an extra emphasis on learning things of building the Beis Hamikdash, and that's chus. We should see the Beis Hamikdash tonight. Tonight, we're going to have a sort of a sheer slash Verbrengen Lekovet Yud Gimel Tammuz, 8:30 tonight. Slocha. We still have to get this guy to come.